Good evening, greetings, friends and followers. This talk show, will be done in English because my guest tonight is English speaking. I'm going to be joined by Angela C. Wild, a researcher and lesbian activist who has uncovered some brutal facts. And I would like to invite her in to my show. Hello, Angela. Welcome to tonight. I'm looking forward to hearing about what you have to tell us. And we're going straight into the topic. You have done some groundbreaking research into the lives of lesbians in this era of trans. And I just want you to tell us how this came about and what you have discovered.
Yes, so we've just published at Get the Head Out a research called Lesbians at Ground Zero, and it's a research on lesbians' experience within LGBT groups, directly with male who identify as trans women, and namely about this phenomenon that maybe you've heard about called the cotton ceiling. So
yes, but I think it would be good if you could explain what does cotton ceiling
exactly mean? So if you've never heard of it, the cotton ceiling is a particularly disturbing piece of the trans ideology. So if you go back to male who identify as women, and if you think of them in their life as men before they transition, they were, for a lot of them, heterosexual male attracted to female. And once they transition and live as women, whatever that may mean, then they think and call themselves lesbians, and that with the whole complete support of the LGBT organization as a whole. They usually, these male who call themselves lesbians, would explain that they feel welcome in lesbian groups and community. However, they find that lesbians may be sometimes somehow reluctant to choose them as sexual partners. And what you all need to know is that the majority, are about 80% of transitioning men into women, do not have any kind of surgery. So we're talking intact male or penis and all. So it's important, it's not a detail, of course. So lesbians who refuse to have any sexual relationship with these people are really pressured within LGBT groups to accept them, or they get called TERFs, or they get called transphobic bigots, Nazi, etc. They also get told that as lesbians who refuse trans women as sexual partners, they are actually oppressing trans women because they refuse to have sex with them. So this is the cotton ceiling. If you've heard of the glass ceiling, you know that barrier in the workplace where women cannot go above a certain position in the managerial position because men keep them for themselves. The cotton ceiling, the word cotton in the cotton ceiling represents the cotton of the knicker of the lesbian who refuses to let trans women penetrate her. So it's particularly rapey, it's particularly disturbing. And it's, I think maybe you had some screenshot to show. It's really important to know that this is very, very prevalent online. It's very, very visible online. It happens all the time. And informally...
yes, I'm going to pick up the Twitter.
This Twitter feed, absolutely. Like more than 300 tweets have been collected of this kind of rhetoric. It's really alarming. So we know it happens online, and we know that informally, it's something that is being discussed, within lesbian communities. We talk about it, we hear about it, but nothing really formal had been done. And women are not really keen to speak about it because, as victims of, sexual pressure, sometimes rape, you know that they don't really want to kind of come forward because they're scared, to be honest.
Yes.
So this is one thing. So I really, first of all, wanted to give these silenced lesbians a voice. It was really important that these voices were heard and these stories were told. And the other thing is we get told by the LGBT, by the GBT actually, that it doesn't happen, it doesn't exist. And the proof that they find to tell us that it doesn't exist is that there has been no research done about it by this LGBT community that is paid, funded to do this research. So this is why we did it. Basically, we thought it was absolutely essential that we knew what was going on.
I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit trouble in sharing the screen. I don't know why exactly, so we'll try to do that later.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. We do have some of the graphics from your research that's going through some of the numbers that you have found.
That's right. So
they're very disturbing.
Very, very disturbing. So we had 80 lesbians answering the questionnaire from pretty much all over the world. This is the kind of thing that the women would say. They are silent in LGBT groups when they express that they are lesbians. And when I mean lesbian, they mean, same-sex attracted at the exclusion of anyone with a penis, regardless of their gender identity, regardless of how they call their penises. When they call themselves lesbians in that sense, 50 women of the sample that I had reported being excluded from their LGBT groups. 60% of these respondents reported being intimidated or receiving threats, such as verbal abuse, death threat, rape threats, threat to kill family members, pressure to commit suicide, really horrendous stuff online, but also in real life where women's employer were contacted. Some women got sacked for being lesbian in 2018 in the Western world. Intimidated in lesbian events, removed from lesbian events because they were lesbians. 56% of the respondents reported having been pressured or coerced to accept trans women as a sexual partner in a real life situation. And, it really shows, with this 80 lesbian, we had stories of sexual pressure from coercion, sexual harassment, assault, rape by deception, rape by physical force, online grooming when the women were underage, domestic abuse, really a wide range of very, very disturbing facts, yeah.
But how is this possible in an era where we just had at least 2-3 years of an enormous Me Too movement? This must have gone completely under the radar because this has not been addressed in the mainstream media at all, as far as I know.
Absolutely not. It's not been addressed. And I can't really explain it. I think what is going on is that the LGBT movement is a gay men's movement. It's a men's movement. And lesbians are underrepresented in this movement. Lesbians do not have a say in this movement unless they agree with what is going on, unless they get removed, which is, really shown by what I've told you. And I think it happens at every level. Probably Stonewall is the same. If you're a lesbian that actually doesn't accept trans women, well, you're probably not going to get a job there. And this is this kind of gay male rights movement, sexual rights movement that is being promoted at the expense of lesbians, and nobody really cares. And to be honest with us, when we first came across this, in 2012, I first heard about it, and we laughed. We didn't think for 1 second that it would be one day possible.
What year? What year did you say?
2012, I think, was the first time we heard about it online.
So these kind of things would never have been accepted had there been heterosexual women being the targets in this day and age. So it seems to me, I've been thinking a lot since we talked the first time. I'm not a member of the LGBT community myself.
Yep.
And some people have wondered, why do you care? My question back is, why don't you? Because everybody have the right to choose who they shall and shall not have sexual encounters with. But I also noticed something else once I started to think about it, that there is a huge absence of lesbian women in show business.
Mm-hmm.
There's always the funny gay guy or the nice gay friend male, but it seems to me that there's an underrepresentation. And is there also more discrimination, would you say, against lesbians than against homosexual men? Or should I say homosexual women contra homosexual men?
Yes, there's a few things. First of all, I don't think that it wouldn't happen to heterosexual women. I think heterosexual women, as we've seen with Me Too, have been targeted and constantly victim of sexual abuse, and they have spoken up, and this is really great. And the abuse still carries on. Let's be honest, it does. But it's absolutely unbelievable that we can have gone through all these years of Me Too, and then lesbians are saying, "Look, us too, actually." And we get called bigots. So this is absolutely outrageous that lesbian sexual boundaries are being completely disrespected in that way. Now, to go back to your point about the representation in media, I would say it's one of the main issues. It's a massive issue for us. We talk about lesbian invisibility, lesbian erasure, and that is exactly what is going on. If you grew up, thinking that maybe you like women or you like girls as a teenager, where do you go? You know, there's very little to actually see. There's no visible lesbian around us. I mean, the first lesbian I ever met that was out as a lesbian, I was 25. There's no visible lesbian in history, as lesbians are erased, and very few lesbian in the media, as we know, and they usually are quite stereotypical as well. So there's really no possibility for girls who still may be attracted to with other girls to go anywhere with it. And it's true in the LGBT as well. And we have really report of younger lesbians, or maybe they would call themselves differently, that when they came out as lesbian, or they realized they liked women or girls, were into queer groups and were immediately said, oh, you know, if you don't conform strictly to these stereotypes, if you do not like to perform femininity, if you are attracted to girls or women, maybe you're trapped in the wrong body. Maybe you're a man. That kind of rhetoric is very in LGBT, and there are no more lesbian groups, you know. And these girls in the lesbian group would have just accepted that they're lesbians, and that's it, no big deal. But there's no such thing anymore, so it's a real big issue. Yes.
Yeah, because there's a 4,000% increase, as far as I know, young girls who want to become boys.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to save just that part of the discussion maybe for another time, because I would like you to tell me some more about. I'm going to pick up one of the pictures that I saw that are very interesting.
Yeah.
Hold on, here it is. You're actually my first talk show guest, Angela. So my technique is a little bit rusty. Tell us about this picture.
So this picture, this is a bunch of us going to Pride in London last year. We marched uninvited in front of the official parade, and we were basically leading an action for lesbian visibility. We wanted to be visible lesbian. If you look at the website of Pride last year, it was picked up by a few journalists, feminist journalists, that there are no representation of lesbians in the website, mostly gay men or trans activists. So we thought, you know, this really needs to we need to show lesbians, but we also need to show that the definition of lesbian is completely disagreed with within the LGBT, and that was an action to kind of show that, you know, we were aware of the erasure, we were showing the erasure, and the way the LGBT Pride in London, Stonewall, and other officials responded to just us saying that a lesbian is a female homosexual, as I think has helped many women understand what the problem was.
I don't want to draw too much attention to homosexual men, as I'm sure they can have their own talk show, but do they encounter the same type of coercion and harassment from women who say they are men?
Absolutely not. I mean, you know, if the hashtag unilanguage for gay men was something on Twitter, we'd know about it. No, of course not. I think this is really where you can see the clash between gender identity and sex, and the fact that trans women, you know, feel entitled in any kind of way to sexual, you know, to sexually pressure lesbians or anyone actually, really shows that they were socialized as men because women don't do that. And, you know, women who transition to trans men have been socialized as women. They do not behave like that towards males. That's not happening.
This is actually the same thing that we've heard about so many times. Men saying to lesbian women, "All you need is some DRTK, and you'll be cured." It's conversion. It's sort of conversion therapy disguised in inclusiveness, or how would you describe it? Because this is nothing new. It's just that the men who are now raping put on dress stockings and a wig.
I absolutely agree, and this is also the result of the findings that we've had, where women explain that they've done some DIY conversion therapy. This is what the process has been through with them, some sort of corrective rape, and they kind of force themselves to go through, you know, penetrative sex with male-bodied people, again, whatever their identity may be, when they don't want it, where they think that maybe they're being oppressive to them, because they've, you know, if you've been raised and the only reference you have is the queer ideology and theory, you would actually believe that, you know, again, there is no access to anything else for these women. So yes, it is really conversion therapy for lesbians. Absolutely.
I think I managed to get your
Our Twitter account.
yeah, your Twitter up on the screen. And there's also another one actually that I think we're going to take a look at, because there's obviously people should take a note of your social media.
Yeah.
But also I found one here that's quite interesting, Get the L Out, where you see all these, well, not all, 300 of thousands is my impression. And when you see the wording, first of all, I'm banned from Twitter from saying that lesbian and homosexuals is not queer, which is a fact. And I've been banned since January 25. But when I see what they do allow on Twitter, it's disturbing.
Yeah, I really encourage people who might be watching to not take my word for it and go and research it for themselves. Just type in cotton sealing, go do a Google image search, or go on Twitter and have a look, because it would actually, you would see it for yourself. I can,
Yes, because there are actual threats and harassment and all sorts of things that would never be accepted from
Yes, there's a
anyone stating that a man can't be a woman, for example. Many people have been banned from Twitter from stating that fact.
Yes, but rep threats are still, as far as I can see, and death threat completely. And die in a fire is a constant thing we get told all the time. That's okay, apparently, on Twitter. Yeah.
We're not going to talk too long because this could go on for hours, but I would like to ask if there's something you want to add that I have not asked you yet.
I want to speak to maybe younger girls who might feel that they don't feel like they fit in in their school, and they feel a bit different, and they think that maybe they could be trans for some reason, or they just feel that they don't fit in sexist stereotypes, whether they're lesbians or not. And I really want to say to them, if you feel different from other girls, maybe if you don't feel attracted to boys, maybe if you don't want to wear girls' clothes, maybe if you don't like makeup, all these things, or you like sports that are traditionally associated with boys, there's nothing wrong with you. There's such a big rhetoric against that. As soon as girls step out of the line of what is acceptable for girls, that they must be, trans, that they must really be boys. And, this is not the case. There's nothing wrong with you. And nobody is born in the wrong body. So that is very, very important. For lesbians who are in LGBT groups, and you feel maybe that you're silently critical, for fear of being ostracized or worse, you need to get yourself out and find some lesbians and find some feminists, find some real support, because these groups will destroy you. I think it's really crucial that women and girls find like-minded groups where they can be. But more generally, yeah.
So actually, the some of these organizations that are supposed to protect the women are actually dangerous for them.
Absolutely. I mean, what we really are saying is that the LGBT does not represent the interest of lesbians. If lesbians are gaslighted, to accept penises in their sexual life, this doesn't work. If we are demonized because we exclude penises, it doesn't work. And what we are also saying, if LGBT does not represent the interest of lesbians, where lesbians are pressured to transition, because there is no lesbian, in LGBT groups anymore. So these two phenomena, whether the cotton sealing or the social contagion of female transitioning, are forms of lesbian erasure, and LGBT is actively complicit in erasing us. So this is not a good place for women.
Obviously, a lot of these organizations in Norway, anyway, I don't know the situation in England, but my impression is that it's the same. They get so much money, and it looks like trans and queer is hiding behind lesbian and gay, because in Norway, at least, the acceptance for this is close to 100%. People have no issues with homosexuality, and they have used maybe gay and lesbian rights as a Trojan horse. Yes. Because it seems, from what you have been saying and what I've observed myself, that the interests are very different, because it seems like trans and queer are trying to erase homosexuality and and women are being the prime targets for this, victims.
I completely agree, but because gay men are not women and they are not victims of oppression, of misogyny and sexism, they are not targeted in the same way. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Trans activism and trans ideology is saying, and again, go and refer to those tweets, that any form of sexual orientation is transphobic in itself because you exclude, So obviously, it is also a problem for gay men in the theory, although in the practice, it's only a problem for lesbian women.
So politicians should also take note of this, because they are supporting something that they don't know what they are supporting.
I don't know if they care. I don't know if they realize. I think a lot of people are busy repeating the mantra that we've been told, that trans women are women and questioning anything is hate speech. It's not hate speech to ask a question. It's not a hate speech to have sexual boundaries. Sexual orientation in the UK is protected by the law under the Equalities Act. So they actually are discriminating, committing a crime against lesbians when they are targeting us in that way.
Thank you so much, Angela, for coming to this short talk. I'm going to scroll through the commentaries to see if there are any questions, and of course people can ask questions later, and it seems like there are not any now. Maybe they will be on Facebook. We can't see all the questions real time here, so maybe you would like to scroll down and when you have time at the Facebook one. And thank you so much for coming, and keep up the great work. And I will post all the links in, or maybe you want to do it yourself, post the relevant links in the commentary on Facebook. And again,
and see the website. Please share the research. It's a tool that's been made to be shared. Share it to your MP, share it to your GP, share it.
Let me write down hold on.
The website?
Yes.
It's www.
Yeah.
Get.
G-A-T-T, yes.
Yeah, the L out UK.
.uk?
No, UK.com. Get the L out UK.com.
Get the L out. Okay. There we go.
That's right.
I don't know if I got all the capital letters right, but
perfect. Come and say hello there and look at the research. There's also a donation button if you want to support our actions and further research. Please donate. Thank you.
And particular attention to the message that you deliver to young girls, because as you have showed us, they are under a lot of pressure. And unfortunately, the organizations that are there to protect them, they do not. So seek other advice.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you so much, Angela. We'll be in touch.
Thank you so much.